This first item, I think, is the one that I'm most attached to, and I think is the most important, because it affects everything else so much. Criminalization of money in politics and corporate lobbying is my first proposal. Right now, what we have, especially in America, is a system of legalized bribery, where corporations and rich donors, millionaires and billionaires, can use their money to influence elections and to basically manipulate the entire system towards their advantage. And that's exactly, of course, what they do. And knowing how survival works, we can expect and predict that that's exactly how they would behave if they're allowed to do that. So my proposal is to pass a constitutional amendment that actually bans all money in politics and reinforces the idea of one person, one vote. That is the core idea behind democracy. Right now, it might seem on the surface that we have one person, one vote, because nobody gets two actual physical votes at the ballot box. But in practice, we don't. The system has been so manipulated by devils over the last 200 years, since the country was founded, that what we have in practice is that the people with money, the corporations, the millionaires and billionaires, the people with the connections and the power, that they get more than one vote, which is not what the founders intended, and which is what is skewing the entire system out of balance. See, even though a billionaire doesn't technically have more than one vote, in practice he does, because he can use those billions of dollars to fund political campaigns, run advertisements, create propaganda channels on the internet, fund various kinds of disinformation campaigns, all this sort of stuff, create fundraisers and galas and dinners and various kinds of fake charities and nonprofit organizations, all of this to influence politicians, to get close to politicians, and to ultimately get them to pass what he wants them to pass. Or to select the politicians that people can vote on. See, this is a huge problem. And of course, corporations are the worst offenders here, because corporations have more money than any one individual. And they have a vested interest to rig the system. But if you think about it, corporations have no vote whatsoever under the Constitution. They don't get a vote at all. And yet, what we have now in America is we have corporations mostly controlling politics. So how backwards is that? They're not even supposed to have a vote, and yet they have more voting power than anybody else, even though they don't physically go to the ballot box. What they can do is they can fund and run these various kinds of corporate PACs, dark money coming from all sorts of sources. The money is not tracked. All of this is corruption. It's legalized corruption. It's corruption that has been so normalized that people just accept it as how business is done in Washington. This is a huge problem, and we need to get back to one person, one vote, and we need to do this constitutionally, because the Supreme Court has made a series of quite problematic decisions about money being free speech, and this idea that you can just hand people bags of money and do these fundraisers and speeches and so forth, and that all of this is just free speech and it's all protected. No, this is devilry, is what this is. Money is not free speech, and you are not allowed to give a bag of money to a judge or to a police officer or to a professor to get a good grade. That's called bribery. And this is exactly what's happening within politics. It's just so normalized that we don't think of it. The system is so entrenched and steeped in this corruption and this bribery. So to fix this, I think we need a constitutional amendment so that it's very clear and very strong, and there's no more debate or wishy-washiness about money in politics. It just needs to be stopped. And all politics need to be publicly financed. I mean, all elections need to be publicly financed. Yes, that costs the taxpayer some extra money, but actually this is a huge return on investment that we'll get as taxpayers, because right now we lose so much tax money from all the corruption and bribery that's been legalized, all the lobbying, all the corporate subsidies for the military-industrial complex, for big oil, for pharmaceuticals, all of this sort of stuff. We lose literally billions, hundreds of billions, and even trillions of dollars because we don't have public financing of elections. It's quite ridiculous and obnoxious. So in this way, we can really clean up government and free up funds by not wasting funds in the wrong areas due to lobbying